Are you looking for comprehensive solutions for your performance and automotive needs? Straightline Performance and Automotive is a full-service auto repair shop specializing in race car fabrication, electrical design, chassis setup and alignment. Located in Hamden, Connecticut, they also specialize in aftermarket high performance and chassis upgrades. Be sure to look them up on Facebook at www.facebook.com/straightline, STR8LINE, Performance, &Automotive, or give them a call at 203-415-5316. Welcome, racers and fans, to the Racers News Network Live, presented by Straightline Performance and Automotive and Scotty Wheels Racing. Your hosts, Chris and Pete, bring you the latest news and interviews in the world of sportsman drag racing, including bracket racing, association races, outlaw, and no-time events. We are live every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take it away, boys.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Racers News Network Live. Pete may be joining us. He's having a little bit of an issue with a delivery at his house. He got attacked by a couple tons of wood pellets. He's not hurt or anything. It's just kind of a mess, and he's trying to get it taken care of so he can get on with us. But we have joining us in just a little bit, Rob Keister from Midatlntic .90 Association. Everybody knows who Rob is. They have a lot of great announcements that are going to be coming up for the 2022 season. I know it's kind of crazy. Here we are, not even at Christmas time yet, and we're already basically got a schedule laid out for one of the biggest associations on the East Coast. It's not only going to be Midatlntic .90, but it's also going to be other special events that Rob has going on. So we'll be talking to him in just a few minutes. Good evening. Good evening, Tiffany. Good evening, Steve. How is everybody tonight? So like I said, hopefully Pete will be joining us. I know Jerron will not be joining us. I talked to him a little while ago. He's still out on the West Coast. He is going to be Pomona bound. So he will kind of have a little bit of a tough time with the time difference. Hi, Tina. Hi, Steve. Rob, there he is. He's getting powered up. I could see it in his eyes. It's got your bottom left. Turn your mic.
How about now?
There you go. There he is. What's going on, buddy?
What's up?
How you doing?
Good.
Good. Pete may or may not be joining us. He's having a little bit of an issue with a delivery at his house.
Yeah, so I posted something about Lowe's sucking, and
yeah, he's got.
But I just in case he does, since him and Jerron like start on me on Facebook, I brought my helmet. I brought my helmet just in case they wanted to rumble tonight.
Oh, there we go. I tried to get Pete to do an all helmet show, but he's not biting on it. So you got a lot of stuff coming up, but if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of buzz through some results from this past weekend and some other stuff, and then we'll get talking about Midatlntic .90 and your other events that you greatly already have scheduled for 2022.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to go to Cecil County for the 2021 Strange Engineering Outlaw Streetcar Shootout Champions. Pro 275, Mark Benston Jr. X 275, Ron Rhodes. Ultra Street, Dylan Weil. Top Sportsman, Joe Heffernan. 850 Index, Steve Silver. Pro Dial, Chris Krajewski. 10-0 Index, Joe Tominski. 1150 Index, Ace Smith. Pro Street, Jeremy Stoker. Super Street, Roger Dalton Jr. So congratulations to everybody for the 2021 Strange Engineering Outlaw Streetcar Shootout Championships. Moving on to East Coast Super Stock Association had their final event at ADCO this past weekend. I guess The second race, they had to finish up running the 8th mile. Let's see. So 2021 final point standings. Taking home the championship this year, Bubba Linke. Second, Wendy Caliendo. Third, Lincoln Moorhead. Fourth, Dwayne Hoven. Fifth, Doug Linke. Sixth, Ron Moorhead. Seventh, Matt Lisa. Eighth, Kevin Fogarty Sr. Ninth, Jeff Lawrence. 10th, Tex Miller. 11, Eddie Moranian. Shane Hoax. Then Angelo DeTaco. Stan Jereminski. And then Joe Marco or Mochi finishes out the order for the 2021 East Coast Stock Superstock Association. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. I had another page. Brian Stianchi, Joey Cole, Pat Glade, Russell Linke Sr., Rich Preezer, and Ed Schrader finishes out the order for the East Coast Stock Superstock Association 21 point standings. So do you have a full schedule all set and ready to go, Rob?
Yep. Yeah, we finalized our final date today, actually. But I know if you got to get the Vegas results too, you can do that, and I'll wait till but big congrats to Bubba Linke on his championship with the East Coast Stock Superstock Association. Bubba's a great guy, kind of humble. You don't really he's a pretty funny dude, and doesn't say much, or was, but when he does talk, it's some pretty funny stuff that does come out of him. And man knows how to drink his beer, knows how to drink his Bud Light. When you get a golf cart that is painted like a Bud Light bottle, but instead it's of course his initials are BL, which is Bubba Linke. Also could be Bud Light. His golf cart's painted like a Bud Light bottle. So but congrats to Bubba and the whole Linke family on I believe it might have been his first championship with the East Coast Stock Superstock. I'm not too sure, but I know they had a pretty rough weekend, I guess you would say, at ACO. There was a few accidents, a few crashes. Not really sure who exactly was involved in it, but I know they had some crashes over the weekend on Saturday, and then they ended up going to 8th mile on Sunday. And I believe it was Bubba and Matt Lisa in the final of Sunday's race. So, and Bubba took the win. So, but big congrats out to Bubba. So,
very cool. All right, we're going to move on to, we have some of the Division I and some of the national championship stuff as well. I was told that there's a pretty good chance that the D1 stuff is solid, but I figured I'd wait just because of this being the last divisional this past weekend. You never know if the points might change just a little bit with the people that were out there. So I decided to hold off on reading all of those. But the ones that we do have locked in are Greg Stanfield, your national super stock champ, Todd Bednaz, D1 stock champ, and I believe that is Todd's first championship in the divisional side. Robert Fortuna, your Division I top sportsman champ. Mike Handress, Division I super gas champion. Blake Peevler, 2021 NHRA Vortex Superchargers top dragster champ on the national side. Sean Bellemure, 2021 top alcohol dragster, top alcohol funny car world champ, and also the champ for the Midwest Drag Racing Association in top alcohol funny car. Bruno Massel, 21 comp eliminator world champ. Rachel Meyer, of course, with the great battle with Jackie Freck last weekend. Final round race, and goes for all the marbles, as it were. Rachel Meyer, 2021 top alcohol dragster world champ. Let's see, moving into the Northwest Division. Sean Cowie, your top alcohol dragster divisional champ. Doug Gordon, top alcohol funny car championship. Ryan Warder, comp eliminator champ. Jody Lang in super stock. Kyle Rizzoli in stock eliminator. Tom Clark in super comp. Mike. Oh boy, this is a name I'm going to regret. Coltrib, super gas. Gordon Hoven, super street. Jake Newbuyer, top sportsman. Some of these are just a little blurry. Cody Hyatt, top dragster, and Michael, my printer cut it off. Haas, maybe, hopefully. Sorry if you're listening, I totally butchered your last name. In Sportsman Motorcycle. So that takes care of that part. So let's hear some of your stuff, Rob.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself there just because.
That's okay.
Yeah, so the past year, the 2021 season, probably one of the most successful seasons that we've ever had with the series. I believe either this year coming up or last year was my 11th season being the president of the Midatlntic Association. I've seen ups, I've seen downs, I've seen good times, I've seen bad times, I guess you would say. I could probably make a country song out of that. But this year we started off, of course, in May with the Dave Stein Memorial event. Originally it was just going to be race number 1 and 2 of our series, but unfortunately after the accident with Dave Stein that took his life in January, we decided to have a big race for him in honor of him. So that race ended up wielding $10,000 to win for the Supercom champion, which doesn't end up being Tom Stava. Paulino took home $5,000 in super gas, and Davey Markle took home $5,000 in super street on Saturday. And then we had another race on Sunday also. In total, I think it was number one, the most, I would say the most money we've ever handed out to a event. It was great. We had a band on Saturday night, and then we finished off the season with one brand new champion and 2 repeat champions. Doug Dog Jr. ended up claiming the Supercom championship over Don Bangs. Don was looking for his 3rd championship with the series. Doug was looking for his 1st. And they pretty much battled out all year long. And the final race of the year, Doug went to the semifinals on Saturday. Don ended up winning the event, so they were 4 points apart from each other going into Sunday, and it was pretty much whoever went the farthest in Sunday's eliminations won. And both kept on knocking down win lights all the way up to 3rd round. And Doug won 3rd round, and Don came up in 3rd round against Kara Stricker, and she laid down like a 7th package on Don, which mathematically eliminated him from the championship. Doug ended up going and winning his 1st event of the year. And then Super Gas was Hank Smith. He won back-to-back championships, beating out Iggy Boychesko. Hank didn't have the dominating season that he had the year before, but he did put up 2 wins and a runner-up for the season with his awesome race car wraps Camaro. And then Super Street, pretty much a repeat. It's like that record that just keeps on repeating, which is Keith Mayers winning the championship, his 6th championship with the series. Keith wasn't as dominant as he's been in previous years. He had some very stiff competition this year. He won a lot of rounds, but Rick Mattioli was actually in the driver's seat to win the championship, and had about a 3-round lead over Keith going into Maple Grove, and end up cracking a cylinder head at I believe Virginia at the Division 1 event, and it pretty much put him out for the whole entire season, or for the last season of the year, or last race of the year. So he was kind of hoping that somebody was going to knock Keith off and be able to keep that keep his 3-round winning or 3-round lead enough, or it was, but Keith being Keith went out and won Saturday's race and ended up winning Sunday's race also. So, when you look at the points, it's one of those things, like they say, it looked, what I say, it looks closer on paper than it really is, but like he ended up winning by like 100 points over Rick. But really, when it came down to it, I mean, it was a lot closer than everyone really thought it was. But either way, congratulations to Doug, Keith, and Hank on their championships, and we'll celebrate March 26th in Trevose, Pennsylvania, for our championship. So at the banquet. But then now we move on to 2022, which will be right around the corner. And today I actually finalized the final date for the 2022 schedule. We're going to start a little bit later, which hopefully the news will be coming out very shortly for Division One schedule, or the divisional Lucas Oil divisional schedule will be coming out very shortly. And I know everybody's on pins and needles about that coming out, but I know for us, unfortunately, with the way the schedule is actually going to be manufactured for Division One this year, our season is going to start very, very late. So our first race of the year is not going to be until June 25th and 26th, and that will be at Maple Grove Raceway. We're also going to have some other classes along with us that day. So we'll also have Top Sportsman and Top Dragster with us that day, and the Junior Dragsters. I'll get into that in just a little bit. I know you posted a little bit about Top Sportsman and Top Dragster and stuff, but then the next event we have is July 17th and 18th, and that'll be at Cecil County Dragway. We had a great car count last year at Cecil for the Uncle Buck Pig Roast. Jimmy and his crew put in a big time improvement over on the racetrack side over the winter time, or actually midsummer time last year, where they put in all brand new, resurfaced the whole entire racetrack, and really phenomenal job. Everybody raved about it, how great the track was, how smooth the track was. And we had record car counts. I mean, funny story is, when I took over the Supercomp series in 2010, the reason actually I ended up becoming president of the series was because we started off at Cecil County Dragway, and the president at the time, Tom Boyle, he was there, and we ended up having, I think, 9 cars show up on Saturday for Supercomp. And he was just frustrated because of all the marketing, all the, going around everybody's trailer, trying to get them to come on board, and nobody would come. And so he came down and he said, listen, I want you to take over the series. And, unfortunately, I don't think you'll ever get cars to come to Cecil County. And, it took a few years, of beating and banging and beating your head up against the wall, trying to see what you could do to try to get cars to come there. And this past year we had 41 Supercomp cars show up for the Uncle Buck Pig Roast. So going from 9 in 2010 to 41 in 2021, and we paid out our largest amount ever for Supercomp, just off. I mean, a lot of people go, well, that doesn't seem like a lot of money compared to these big money bracket races. But when you look at it, you're only paying, $30 at the gate, and you're paying $100 to me, for it. So $130, and, Chase Bonstock took home almost $2,300. It's more than you make at a division race. And, just trying to build it as much as I can. So after Cecil, we'll go to July 30th and 31st will be at ACO Dragway. So we did go back to ACO last year. I know there was, the whole rumors of it's going to shut down, it's going to become a car auction, this and that. As we all know, that did fall through. And as far as I've known, and I've talked to Caitlin and ACO, is that it's full steam ahead for the track, and it's going to be business as usual. And so July 30th and 31st will be our first of 2 visits to ACO Dragway for the year. Then August 21st and 22nd, we'll go back to Cecil County Dragway, and that will be the world famous Uncle Buck Pig Roast. Hopefully, Chris, you can make it on down for that event. And so I already talked a bunch about Cecil. Then September 9th to 11th will be the event that everybody should have marked down on their calendar. I don't care, what you have. You have a .90 car, top sportsman car, top dragster car, junior dragster. This is the event you need to come to, and that's the second annual Dave Stein Memorial event and .90 Nationals. We decided after hearing from a lot of the members and sponsors and stuff is that they really wanted. They were a little bit on the upset side, the loyal members of our series, because the Dave Stein event was incorporated with us being a points event. And, unfortunately what happens is when you get that big money thrown up there, a lot of people, you get people who really don't support the series as much as you normally would see supported. And some of the regulars were a little kind of not mad, but they were a little bit upset that, maybe we were trying to take the series into a different direction than really what they said of the family oriented type event that it is. So I decided this year is at the .90 Nationals and the Dave Stein Memorial event, we'll go ahead and marry each other, and it'll be a non-points event. So we're still working on details right now. I do have confirmation so far from BP Racing Fuels and Road Runner Racing Fuels and Jeff Stricker is that we will pay out $10,000 to the winner in Super Comp again this year on at least Saturday's race right now. But we're still going to be working on sponsors for the other classes, of course. I have to wait for one of my sponsors to get back from Vegas to sit down and talk to him a little bit about some things. And our plan is to roll it out to a 3-day event. It'll be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday event. Friday night, we're going to have a band. The Tom Frolic band will be there. They will be rocking and rolling in the pits with their music. And then Saturday night, we'll have Lovelace, which is a band that we had there on this year, rocking out also. So we'll have bands on each night. My goal is to make this event one of these events that a lot of members, a lot of racers came up to me and told me and says that, we really miss the old days of going to a divisional and having stuff after, we're all done racing. And, they miss the days of like the chicken barbecues that used to have at Lebanon Valley. And I know Maple Grove back in the day used to have like a family barbecue. I'm trying to think. There was some other tracks along the way that we used to have like a you can get around, you can actually see other racers and stuff like that. So that's why we're planning to do, especially with the Dave Stein Memorial, is to have an event where after you're done racing, whether you win first round, win the event, lose second round, or that there's something to do afterwards. A lot of the times now you go around these division races or other events and, you ride around the golf cart and nothing's going on. Everybody's all cooped up for the night. They're all in their motorhome. They're watching TV, and a lot of racers have come to me and says, we really miss that fun atmosphere after racing's all done there with. And I understand we're older, it's that some people don't want to party as much as they used to party and stuff like that. And I'm not trying to make it a party atmosphere, but I'm trying to make it that, people can come over, enjoy themselves, listen to some good music, and have some fun along the way. And we're also planning on some stuff on that Saturday night of the Dave Stein race, possible barbecue, maybe doing, like a movie night for the kids, so that's most of that event. And that'll be at Maple Grove Raceway if I didn't mention that already. And then the final event for our season is going to be October 8th and 9th back at Acco Dragway for the season finale. So it's going to be 10 races total, plus the 2 special events. We'll count 7 out of 10 races towards your total points. If you want to join up a membership, it's $80, and pretty much, you pay at the gate. Our gate fees are going to fluctuate a little bit per track. Unfortunately, just with everything going on right now, and I mean, gas is through the roof, diesel's through the roof, tolls are through the roof. Unfortunately, some of these tracks are trying to survive, and and the only way that they really can survive is through is through some, unfortunately going back to the members themselves, and like Cecil County is, they just put, almost, I believe it was a good amount of money into the track, making it smooth and resurfacing it. And I believe everybody pretty much raved about it, at the division race. And I know they raved about it at the pig roast. And I believe Jimmy's putting more emphasis into making the track better. I believe he's going to put new lighting in and new grandstands in throughout the year or so. So our gate fees are going to go up a little bit this year, just because the tracks have asked for the gate fees. I mean, we have been at $30 for, I don't know, 15 years now, 20 years now. So I believe Cecil County, I think it's going to go up to 50, but we're also going to readjust our payment into the track too. So we're going to work hard on sponsors in the off season to not offset that total cost to the racers. So even if it's 50 at the gate and we lower it to 90 instead of $100 on a Saturday to get in, but we still pay out the same amount of money as we would if it was $100, if the sponsorships and stuff like that. That's been my goal over the past probably 10 years, is to keep building that block, so from here, and then just keep on building it all the way up to the point where we have a buffer that we can afford to do stuff like that and still pay out the payouts that we pay out to the racers. As I said, don't look at the piece of paper and go, oh my God, you raised it up $20 at the gate. I can't afford that. Between tolls and gas and this and that, or it's tough on me and stuff. And, I always laugh is that the racers are the ones who say that they can't afford it, but then they roll up with a stacker and, 4 cars and you're just like, okay, $20 is $20, but hey, it is what it is. But, we're definitely going to try to offset that cost that at the gate for our entry fee off of, having the sponsors come on board and really trying to, one disappointing thing is we're not going to go to, the track that's actually on as your back screen there is new media driveway. Unfortunately, with the way the divisional schedule is kind of worked out right now, it's kind of, I don't want to say anything as far as it, but it's a little top heavy in the beginning. And so that's why we're starting so late. And with that being, starting so late, a lot of the dates for new media, we were hoping to try to get the weekend after the points race. And unfortunately, they are already booked solid with, I believe, there is a big time bracket race coming there the weekend. I talked to Vinny today. He said there was a big time bracket race that's running out the track for that weekend that we wanted it. I know the Shane Swagger and Andy Anderson 4 Racers by Racers event is coming there on Independence Day, July 4th. It's a big money bracket race that was at Maple Grove and is now moving up to New Media for next year. Unfortunately, we're going to go back to 2 races at ACCO, 2 races at Cecil, 1 race at Maple Grove, and then the specialty race at Maple Grove. So that's pretty much what our schedule is going to look like. And we'll go from there. So
the obvious easy answer to this question I'm going to ask you is you. But what do you think has been the success of the Mid-Atlantic .90 Association? What has brought the association to the level that it is at, as compared to some other associations?
I mean, everybody can, and from speaking with me and from talking with me, I'm a very humble person when it comes down to things. I don't like patting myself on the back for jobs well done. And I really think it really comes down to is the racers themselves. You have to put a product out onto the table that the racers are going to want to come to. This is their money that they're spending. This is their hard-earned cash. This is what they work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, on a weekly basis to go. And this is what their hobby is. This is basically what they are going to spend their money on is racing. This is their niche. This is their drug, I like to say. Some people, unfortunately are, are into drugs. Some people are into alcohol. Some people are into racing. And racing is a needle that you can know that no matter how many times you try to get it out of your arm, it just keeps coming back in your arm. I mean, yeah, I've talked to many people who said, hey, they're retired. They're not going to race anymore. They're all done. And then 2-3 years later, you see them buying another car again. And you'd be like, well, what happened to you being retired? Oh, I couldn't stay away. It just makes them keep coming back. And I think now in today's age, that dollar bill goes so far with racers and stuff, is that they want to know that I'm spending that dollar bill and I'm getting the best bang for my buck. I want to know that, when I pull into that racetrack, I feel appreciated. I feel like not that I'm the John Force of the race rules, but I feel appreciated. I get a thank you for showing up. We have family barbecues every Saturday night at all my events, rather it be the pig roast, rather it be just, just hot dogs and hamburgers. I mean, Maple Grove Raceway, our final race of the year, we did just, we had a friend of ours, Frank Spadell, come down and did barbecue chicken for everybody. I cooked burgers and hot dogs on the grill. We had a nice little, barbecue on Saturday night. And then Sunday morning, I woke up and I made everybody pancake breakfast as a thank you for, just showing up, because we all.
I was just going to say, how many division directors have you ever seen out there flipping pancakes for the racers?
Yeah. I mean, it's customer service, and that's what it is. That's, that's why, that's why you see, why people go to their favorite restaurant. So many people go to their favorite restaurant. I mean, I was in the restaurant business for 20 years and I still am. I mean, I'm part-time at, I work at Longhorn, but I work for Applebee's. I worked for little mom and pop places around where I live for almost 20 years. And, it's that customer service that you give to somebody that makes them keep coming back, even if the food isn't that great. It's that customer service, that welcoming. Hey, I feel welcome when I walk in that door. Hey, they know my name. Hey, there's Chris Barnes. Hey, there's Tanya. Hey, there's Elijah. I mean, they know you when you walk in that door, and it makes you feel welcome. Like you're coming into there and you're feeling welcome. And that's what I try to give to the racers when they come into my events, is that, they know that they're spending their hard-earned money, to come into the race and feel appreciated when they come, and when they leave, they feel appreciated when that, hey, they can look back and go, hey, you know what? I had an awesome time at Rob's race. We did a taco night. We did a meatball race. We did just hot dogs and hamburgers. We had the pig roast. We had, he cooked us pancakes. I mean, it's just making people feel appreciated when they leave and when they enter, and then making them. And I feel that's the biggest thing is us, gradually, becoming, do I want to, am I going to compete with NHRA? No, I'm not. I mean, I have nothing against Dave, nothing where it was. I run the races. I run Division I races myself in Super Gas. I mean, I think Dave, Danny, all them guys do an awesome job. Steve Rhodes, Jared, everybody does an awesome job on the Division I staff. I don't want to, I joke all the time that I do not want to be in their shoes. Some of the decisions that they have to make, I don't want to make on my part, but I'm also, not trying to compete with them, but I'm also offering an alternative to NHL races for guys who maybe, don't want to hit all 7 races in a year, or don't want to run for a division championship, or just, like, hey, I don't want to go to Epping. I don't want to go to, Rockingham, where it was. I'll go try some of Rob's races out. And, do I wish everybody would run all my races? Of course I would. But I know, I know where everybody's, kind of loyalties at is, which is NHRA in Division I. I mean, and I will take nothing away from Danny and Dan and Dave and Steve and all them guys, because they bust their ass on a weekly basis, to give the racers the best track that they can and stuff like that. So
now, as kind of a joke question, but I know it's been brought up over this past racing season, that a couple of alcohol teams have approached you and said, hey, Rob, Well, Rob, what do you think about this? Have you considered it at all?
I've thought about it. My work schedule is so crazy. I mean, between my regular full-time job, I mean, people think that I'm a race promoter and that's all I do. And unfortunately, this is like my third job, is being a race promoter. It's almost like my full-time job, but it's my third job of being a race promoter, and it's the job that I really don't get. I barely make any, if anything, a couple bucks off of the fill gas up in my tank and my truck. And really, when it comes down to it, it's I work for Independence Blue Cross during the week in health insurance, and I work at Longhorn on the weekends serving tables. And trying to take on another couple series, would be tough. I mean, unfortunately, I'm not saying that the alcohol guys, don't deserve something else. It's just, and someone will even attest to it, is that maybe not so much alcohol dragster, but alcohol funny car, at least in Division 1 right now, it just is a little bit of a dying class. And I take that lightly, because I have a lot of good friends that are in, alcohol funny car. I mean, I grew up with Danny Pomponio, and Danny Jr. DJ Cox is good friends of mine. And but when they're only getting 4 or 5 cars, an event, and unfortunately, I think a lot of it is, like we talked about, is the Midwest Pro Mod Association. These cars are not cheap. These cars are definitely not cheap to try to operate and to work on, for a lot of these guys being on a budget. I mean, I'm looking at the teams that are in Division 1. I mean, DJ works for DXI. I mean, Paul and Matt Gill, I mean, they have their own company with Moja Line. Danny is, semi-retired, I guess you say. He does work for Bonafonte. I know Brian Golick is I think he's a crane, like a crane operator in Allentown. So, I mean, these guys are all family-based operated, teams. And for them to, it's like what DJ told me, is that, I went to a PDRA race to run Top Dragster. I won Top Dragster, and I got more money out of my Top Dragster win than I did running alcohol funny car at a division race. And it's tough. I mean, it's really tough. I mean, because of the wear and tear that these cars take on a regular basis, between valve springs and everything else, and just being a family operated thing, is to try to add something else on. I don't know if it would really fly. And that's a big thing. And I mean, what I did say was I would go into a little bit, was that some of our events will be run with Top Sportsman and Top Dragster. This past year, actually, it's probably beginning last year, when we had the .90 Nationals take over the weekend of the Keystone Nationals at Maple Grove. I kind of started helping out their assistant general manager, which is Betsy Whitmer, and Sarah Gingrich, which is their PR girl. And I started helping them out a little bit on how to better manage racing there. And this year I kind of helped them out a little bit more too. And in the process, I started helping them out with their Top Challenge series, which is a series that they have with Top Sportsman and Top Dragster racers. It was a series that they kind of had fallen a little bit down on its face a little bit, and needed a little bit of a boost. So we're working on it. I can't announce anything as of yet as far as some of the changes we're going to make, because we're still working on some of that and still working on some sponsorship for there. But the June 25th and 26th race, Top Sportsman and Top Dragster will be there. Also, the Dave Steiner race will be there with Top Sportsman and Top Dragster. And then once my sponsor gets back from Vegas, we're maybe some big news coming in the works for junior dragsters. I can't promise anything as of yet, but there may be some big news coming in the works for junior dragsters. for them, because right now, unfortunately, they don't have a point series. And I know it's something that the parents definitely want. And I know that the parents definitely, a lot of my .90 racers who have junior dragsters really said they would come and support my series more often if we had junior dragsters, because, they want to make, as we just talked about, the best bang for their buck is that coming to an event where they feel welcome, where they feel, that they're spending their hard-earned cash to come down and run. And, if they can run their junior dragsters and their .90 cars, not once, but twice, in a weekend, it's a win-win situation for them. So, but we're working on something. Just now that I have the schedule that's finalized, I just, fortunately got to get the ball rolling on that stuff. And just getting the schedule finalized is probably 50% of the battle, and then going from there.
So Steve Rhodes said East Coast Professional Alcohol Racing Series.
Only if Steve comes and preps the track.
Oh, I bet he would do that. Let's see if
he would. Steve has
chimes in.
I can say Steve Rhodes and Jared Artis have come and helped out a bunch this year with Jared helped out with the Dave Stein race along with Steve. Steve did my last .90 race at Maple Grove, and he's been working pretty much. I guess he doesn't live too far away from Maple Grove, and he's been helping out there a bunch. Also, Scott Stayers, who also works on the NHRA team, works at Maple Grove pretty much, I would say full time, but I guess pretty much the weekends off from the NHRA tour. So big thanks to Steve and Scott and Jared for all their help this year. I mean, it's greatly appreciated. I mean, they don't get thanks enough for everything. I mean, as racers, we're the first ones to go and bitch and complain about a track not being prepped right, or this or that or was. And I think a lot of us need to take a step back sometimes and realize that, these guys are out there in the heat, 14, 15, 16 hours a day, scraping, when we go down and get in our race car and we go down and make our run and we come back and get our time slip and do all our stuff or was, and then we can go retreat to the motorhome and cool ourselves down to our next run, or they say, okay, you guys are done for today. The first thing you do, we jump in the cooler and we grab a beer to celebrate the day, where these guys are still out there scraping the racetrack and having to go up and down on the thing. And, I think people would realize it more how much these guys actually do if they were in their shoes. I always joke when I was in the restaurant business, be a server for 6 months. You'll realize that it's not all it's cracked up to be. And, and I think, if you spend even a weekend in, one of their shoes, you'll have much more appreciation for what, the NHRA crew and the Division I crew, and even just your local track operators do on a regular basis. On a regular weekend, you would have a whole new perspective for what they have to do.
So Dan Wally wants to know, any .90 races on your schedule that need a filler this year?
As far as
that, he didn't specify.
No. I'm assuming he's probably talking about the index racers. I mean, I'm sure, we really have tried to do some stuff with the index racing stuff going around. The index racing has taken off big around here on the East Coast, especially Cecil County, with the Northeast index racers. You just said that the strange streetcar shootout race that they had at Cecil County, which they have each month, is big. And I believe, I know when I did talk to Caitlin at ACO, I know the plan is, I think, to have at least one event possibly with the Northeast index races at ACO. Unfortunately, Cecil County does theirs the first of each month, and they're not, I wouldn't say they're not welcoming to .90 cars, but they kind of they kind of have they kind of go by a beat of their own drum, I guess you would like to say, with how their car, how the track's set up, how the cars are prepped and stuff. So .90 cars really aren't like, we did actually run, I believe, one event, maybe 2018, 2017. I think it was a rain out for their streetcar shootout race at Cecil County. I think and our season finale was on the makeup date, and it was actually a really good weekend. I mean, they had they had a lot of fast cars there, had us there, and and nobody complained about having to watch throttle stop cars. I mean, like I said, I mean, we all know that it's not the fancy of a lot of people to watch throttle stop cars. We all know you go to the top end to watch it. I believe some of the stuff that they've done on NHRA on NHRA.com with Brian Loans and Joe Costello and stuff like that, trying to teach people the top end racing aspects of it. Shows like yours and other things like that have kind of opened eyes for some people with throttle stop racing. It's to each its own. I mean, I'm not gonna you either love it or you hate it. I mean, it's sometimes you have to open up your eyes to you have to open up their eyes to different aspects of racing and so. But to answer Dan's thing, I believe there are going to be at least one event, probably maybe two, with some index racing, just as some filler along the way. But I believe probably the Cecil County races, if things probably have the Nostalgia Stock Super Stock series with us, at least probably one or two of those weekends. But I know they haven't finished up their schedule as of yet. But I know that was one of the requests that I sent to Chad to have the United Stock Super Stock series with us, and that's just basically because of unfortunately I'm not trying to run as rampant, and that's the biggest thing that some of these tracks unfortunately do is like Cecil doesn't have a bracket program anymore. It used to be great on Sundays when we could have the .90 cars. You have a little bit of a break to run pro and super pro and motorcycles and whatever else, and then go right back into the .90 guys again. But unfortunately, they got rid of their bracket program. So now when you kind of go there, it's pretty much just make a run, come back, get your time slip before you're back to the trailer. They're calling you back off around qualifier number 2, and on a 105 degree day, or it was, is not fun to be run around like that. But
kind of backing up just a little bit, like what you were saying about people have to be kind of willing to learn a little bit more about the throttle stop racing. And I know you've heard me tell this story before. Brought my wife to the drag strip one time, and her almost verbatim words were, "What the hell is this?" They go, eh, and then they go again. And so I took them down to the top end, and I said, "All right, stand here and watch." And that was when she kind of gained an appreciation for it. And that's what more people need to do, is that, yeah, okay, it may not be the most exciting stuff. It's not a super stocker doing an 8-foot wheel stand off the starting line. That's this part of the racing. The throttle stop is this part of the racing. And then, yes, there's stuff in the middle, but you have to be willing to take all three parts of it and put it together. And,
unfortunately, unfortunately, when they built the racetracks, the grandstands they put at the starting line. They didn't put it. They didn't put it at the top end of the racetrack. I mean, there are some tracks that do have top end grandstands. Maple Grove does have one around the 1,000-foot mark. I believe New Media is a great location to look at up on top of the hill and watch the cars come down the top end. I believe I've actually never been to Epping, but I believe you can go up on top of that hill.
They have the big hill on the left on the spectator side, and then they put up a temporary grandstand on pit side at the top end.
Yeah, so
because that's only up for the national event, and then it comes down. But yeah,
I know Lebanon Valley, everybody stands up against the side of the dirt track. I believe the watch, or it was. Virginia, actually, I found Virginia has a pretty good spot to watch some top end racing also. And then I think about Cecil and Acco, probably the two tracks probably that aren't the greatest places to watch any kind of top end racing. You can, if they'll allow you, you can go up on top of the ticket booth up at Cecil. You can go up on top and watch. Because there's some stairs and there's like a little mezzanine little area you can watch. You can watch there. And ACO did have grandstands at the end of the racetrack, but I believe they were blown down in a storm. The same storm that blew down the ones at the starting line that were in the burnout area. So I think they both got blown down, and there was like a pretty bad storm. I know people wanted to point fingers and say, "Oh, that's the end of ACO. He's tearing down the grandstands," but they actually did get beat up in a storm. And that I could test to. I mean, ACO is only 30 minutes from my house, so when we had storms come through, I could definitely tell that unfortunately, aluminum grandstands don't last that long. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know at Cecil they had on the left hand side, on the spectator side, if you will. I know a couple of times when I'd gone down for Uncle Buck's, I'd gone up on that knoll that's at the top end, and the view wasn't too bad. I mean, yeah, you weren't super elevated, but you had somewhat of a better view. So
yeah, the only thing I would say is that it would be cool if, like, I believe it's it might be a Norwalk, and I think there's somewhere else, maybe Brainerd. I think is that the scoreboards actually show on both sides. So you have the scoreboard, shows up there, and then on the backside, I think they have the time show up on the backside also, along with either like a wind light or something or along the way, so that for people like that who because up on that berm at Cecil County where a lot of people park at, it's already past the finish line. So you either have to kind of look at like the wind lights, or if you can see them. They did actually do some pretty cool thing this at the Lucas race. Chad, who's their track manager, put these like blue LED bulbs in the wind lights at the end. So you could see, like, I know going to Cecil for a long time, the cars would go down. You can never tell who won left lane, right lane. And me, when I'm doing my live videos, I'm like, I think left lane won. I'm not too sure, but now they have these nice big blue LED bulbs at the end that shine, so you can actually see who wins and who loses and stuff like that. So that was actually pretty cool to have a division race to be able to find out who won, who didn't win. So
yeah, at New England Dragway, one of the other things they do is they have, I call them traffic lights, mounted to the Jersey wall. I don't know, 100, 200 feet past the finish line. That obviously, whichever lane, and then that particular light comes on. So at least, if anything, the driver at least knows what's going on, or, those who know what it is. So how about your sponsors this year that helped put this whole deal together and made you want to move on to what's coming up?
Well, we have tons of sponsors who just support this series left and right. I mean, our major sponsor, of course, is VP Racing Fuels and Road Runner Racing Fuels. Jeff Stricker, Kara Stein, Kim Stricker, a great family. They live 10 minutes from Maple Grove. So if you're on the East Coast in Division I, you need VP Racing Fuels. Contact Jeff or Kim or even Kara, about getting your fuel supply for this for the off season. VP Racing Fuel has just been a great sponsor. 415. A lot of people don't know about who he is, but Jason Aganakis, probably spelled his last name wrong, but Jason is a chemist for Pour 15. He's also a doctor, and he's a doctor for Dr. Rust, as he likes to call himself. So Pour 15 is a company who does rust deals, and using a lot of paint things. So they were a huge supporter of this. WT Pipeline Consultants, Bill Phillips, the 3-car team that they come out with on a regular basis with Bill Phillips, Bill Harderford, and also you have Dave Huber who helps them out a bunch. I know I had a list somewhere around here, and of course, like a dummy.
Well, when you need it, you can't find it.
Yeah, that's the way. There it is, right there. Jegs.com. Woody over at Jegs has been a huge supporter of ours the past 2 years. So big thank you to Jegs. Comp Cams, Autometer, A1 Towing and Recovery, and A1 Mulch, with Mike and Deb Combs, huge supporters of our series, and a great group of people with their cars, Kevin Rob driving, and Kyle Rob also. JKR Racing, Jeff Kondratic Racing, Lucas Oil. Of course, we all know Jeff with his trackside support, does an awesome job for the racers. Just bought my brand new helmet for next year. And that helmet, I believe it's on its way to, eventually going to be on its way to Mr. Duran. So he can paint it up and see if my ideas of everything comes to light. So Contingency Connection, Mike's Service Center, Mike's Auto Repair, S&W Performance Group, Advanced Control Device ACD, Nitro Graphics, which is Kyle Koretsky, did all the big checks for us this year. Capital Air Filters, Delhaven Service Center, J&A Pest Control, who did the bounty for Super Comp this past year. ISC Racers Tape, Awesome Race Car Wraps, Mark Marcico Law, B&B Auto Repair, Keith Mayer's Motorsports, Lift Tech Forklifts, Dues in Performance, Joe Mark Commercial Food Equipment, Frank Lupo's Dynamic Converters, and Chapel Range Engines. As all the sponsors that we have, it's a lot of sponsors, and mind blowing that all these guys support us. But obviously we're doing something right, and it's definitely, I would like to take credit for all of it, but I won't take credit for any of it, because without the racers, you can't have a race. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you could put these events on left and right. If only one car shows up, you need to figure something out. But the racers believe in what I've put on the table to them, and without them, we can't do it alone. So it's a big thank you to all the racers, all the sponsors, and my team. I actually have a team now. Big thank you to the one person or two people, I guess, who really helped me out big time this year was Dana Leone and Dave Nahill. Dana basically became my money girl this year, helped collect all my money this past year, because we all know, it's hard being a one-man show, and she helped out a bunch this year along with Dave. So.
Cool. Well, since I've known you, your series has definitely grown and grown, and it continues on a great path. Someday, may not be any time in the next couple of years, but someday the Piggy Trophies are going to become just as valuable as a Wally.
I think honestly the Piggy Trophies have started to almost become as valuable as a Wally. I mean, people love the Piggy. I mean, it's a once a year race that we do for the pig roast, and I mean, I think people really look forward to that event. And I tell people every year, if you've never been to the Uncle Buck Pig Roast and you ever wanted to try out our series, it is the one event you have to go to. It's just, it's a fun event. I mean, it's racing, or it was, but I mean, if you leave, and if you leave hungry out of that place by the end of the night, then you've done something wrong. And then this year we actually had a local company called White Tiger Distillery came down and actually sold their like a alcoholic pouch, whatever it was that they had. So, and that was a big hit with the racers. But it's cheap. we try to make it cheap, affordable, fun for everybody to come out and come racing with us. And, like I said, we can't do it without the racers. And, reach out to me on Facebook, reach out to me on, email, whatever. And, we'd love to have, some new faces, some new racers come and play with us in 2022. And, I know we're not going to Lebanon Valley. I know we're not going to Epping, which, I do get some requests for, but, unfortunately I got to kind of keep that core around the 3 tracks around here where I know the core of our .90 racers are. I mean, I look at the .90 crowd that comes up to Lebanon Valley, and it's not a lot of guys from around here that follow the series. So I don't know how it would go up there. I know Epping probably would not be a good tow for a lot of people. I had actually, if Cecil County fell through on the one date, I was going to look at Mason-Dixon, but that didn't transpire. So we're kind of keeping it to our 3 core tracks right now. Like I said, I wish I could go to New Media, but unfortunately it didn't transpire with the little window that we do have for 2022 with the division schedule. So
right. Yeah, I mean, people complain about the tow up here, which I mean I get it, having driven up and down the East Coast, for a number of years. I get the tow up here sucks. It does. It's expensive. The roads suck. Not necessarily in New Hampshire, but south of us getting here, the roads suck. Traffic sucks. The cost of everything sucks, and it's not getting any better.
Yeah.
And
that's going to be a big big topic of discussion, I think, as we get closer to the 2022 season is how, and I think this would be a great show for you and Pete and John to put together is to find out how much with the cost going up, or how much is it going to affect people's 2022 racing schedule? I mean, it's going to, I think it's going to take the toll on some racers. Some racers are really going to scale back, I believe. I mean, there's going to be those racers no matter what. I mean, they'll sell a kidney, they'll sell whatever they got to sell to go racing. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, but, I think some people may, scale back to say, hey, gas being, I mean, I don't know what it is up your way right now. I mean, it's like topping about 350 a gallon right now in regular. And then, diesel's almost $4. So I think a lot of people are going to kind of be like, I'm not sure if I really want to.
Using the gas station across the street from my house as an example. I mean, it's $3.39 for regular, and it's either just under or just over $4 a gallon for diesel. I can't imagine having to shell out that kind of dough right now. But like you said, people will find a way to get from here to the other side of the country to chase the points if they want them bad enough. So
yeah. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's racing and it's a drug. Like I said, it's a drug. It's gonna and do whatever it can to you to keep you going. And you know what? It's a fun thing. I mean, I have this conversation with my dad all the time. I mean, he's 74 years old, and he says this is really all I got left, to live for is go racing. So, you know what? I'm not going to stop him, until that one day that the doctor either whatever says he can't race anymore or whatever. But he's going to either support me or whatever. I mean, it's just you gotta like I said, you only get one life, and live it to the fullest and have fun. I mean, that's the biggest thing is have fun. And no matter what, you can't take the money with you, so you might as well you might as well have fun while you can out here. So and that's about it.
I tell Elijah all the time, Elijah, I am spending your inheritance right now.
Yeah, I'm living in my inheritance right now. I'm living in my inheritance. My father gave me the house didn't really give me the house. I still have a mortgage payment on it, but yeah, he cut me a deal on after my stepmom and mom passed away in 2017. So so this is my inheritance, I'd like to joke. And I guess eventually the race car and trailer and the motorhome and all that stuff would be my other inheritance, as things go by. But
absolutely. All right, Rob. Well, cool. Thank you for talking about the upcoming season. Like I said, there's still more news to come. You can hang out if you want. I'm going to go through the Vegas results. One other championship that I did fail to mention, but I have talked about in the past, was DJ Cox, repeated in Top Alcohol Funny Car in the regional series in Division One. And of course, like I said, Jackie Frick, second nationally, first in the regional championship in Division One.
I believe all the Division One stuff has been settled, right? And now I think
I have, but every time I go to check the points, I honestly don't know if they're completely updated. So I'm going to wait till next week. So there'll be like no doubt in my mind that divisional points up here will be settled. So because I know nationally, there's Joe Santangelo is out west chasing national points. He ran this past weekend in Vegas for the divisional, and I read that he is California bound in a car. So I figured I'm gonna sit and wait. What's another week? The last national event of the year is next weekend. Wrap it all up then. Oh, I know, it's insane. It feels like we're just restarting this show and talking about the races in Florida. And actually, there is a rumor going around that the divisional at Orlando is going to change to the fall. Whether or not it's true,
I'm not going to say.
Send me a message.
Okay.
So again,
yeah, it's the schedule is going to look a lot different for next year. I'm just going to put it at that. It's just, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want Dave emailing me tomorrow and screaming, hollering at me. So it's going to be, going to look a lot. Tell
him he can email me and scream and holler at me. We've done that a lot in the past couple of years.
It looks a lot different for next year. A lot of different flip flops and there's a lot of there's going to be a lot of race. I'm just going to say there's going to be a lot of racing in Division One next year. That's all I gotta say.
Really?
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, there's nothing wrong with that then. All right. Nope. So Super Comp for the Super 8 shootout at the Strip in Vegas. Your champion was Daniel Johns, runner-up Nick Eisenhower. In Super Gas, Mark Philbrook took home the little man, and runner-up was Laureen Rogers. Super Street, Gene Clark over Chuck Lowry. In Super Comp, Chad Weber over Jack Sadler, and I haven't seen a certain name in Super Comp. Wonder where he is, huh?
Who's that?
A certain part of our show.
No, Tron.
Right. So Super Gas, Evan Kowalski over Steve Parsons. In Super Street, John Dexter over Mike DeCarolis. All right, moving on to the final divisional event in the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series, again at the Strip in Vegas. Top Alcohol Dragster, Casey Gristle over Karen Stalba. Karen had a breakout year in Top Alcohol Dragster. Definitely, she had some real awesome runs, a lot of rounds covered. Did a great job. Top Alcohol Funny Car, the man who is just completely and totally on a mission this year, Sean Bellemure over Doug Gordon. Number 1 in points, won the race. Number 2 in points was the runner-up. Comp Eliminator, Royce Freeman over Joe Mazaris. Super Stock, Pete Peary over Todd Rodenberg. Stock Eliminator, Ryan Mangus over Dave Peachy. Super Comp, Val Torres over Michael Miller. Super Gas, Mike Coltrane over Austin Williams. Super Street, Jess Dale over John Dexter. Top Sportsman, Chris Newman over Jimmy Lewis. Top Dragster, Taylor Vetter, who actually is going to be a guest on our show on the 29th, over Mark Yeager. Sportsman Motorcycle, David Wheeler over Rick Newport. And just a couple of notes for the .90 stuff. In Super Gas, Mike Coltrane gets his 10th career win, second this year. In Super Comp, Val Torres gets his 16th career win and his second this year. Super Street, let's see, Jess Dale with his second career win. And that is all the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series results from Vegas.
No, I'm not sure if you said it. I think I did see that Jimmy Lewis clinched the Top Sportsman Championship for NHRA for the World Championship.
Let's see. I think. No, I didn't have that on my list.
Yeah, I just saw it. I just saw it pop up. Jimmy Lewis. So Jimmy Lewis clinched the World Championship in Top Sportsman to go along with his Super Gas World Championship from a few years back.
Let me do a thing here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to wait till next week. We'll wrap up the national events and the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series stuff next week. So just want to make sure everything is confirmed. More than likely, the divisional stuff, especially up here, is locked in, but I'd much rather make sure. So,
well, as always, I appreciate you having me.
No
Appreciate you having
problem.
me. So, anybody has any questions or wants to come join the series, you know how guys get a hold of me. So you can email me, bksg1198 at gmail.com, or hit me up on Facebook. And look forward to hopefully seeing some new faces this year and our regular faces, and battle out for the championship. So hopefully we'll see you at the pig roast in August.
All right, Rob, have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Rob Keister, Mid-Atlantic .90 Association. If you have any questions about .90 racing in the Mid-Atlantic, check out them on Facebook. Shoot Rob a message. He will be more than happy to talk to you. Let's see. Coming up next week, Chris Chapman from the Atlantic Coast Super Stock Association is going to wrap up their season and all their champions. Obviously, being north of the border this year was kind of a hindrance because it was closed and they couldn't get across. But as of today, it is open. Hopefully it stays open. We'll see what happens, and look forward to talking to them. I know a bunch of the guys from Canada, the super stock guys, and some of the .90 guys. Great crew of people. But till then, if you're headed out to California for the season finale and the Nashville event, have a safe flight if your flight doesn't get canceled. If you're already there, enjoy yourself, have fun, stay safe, travel safe. We'll talk to you all very, very soon. Have a good night, everyone.